Hi, we are the ESI team. Last fall, there was a few large changes in the company that affected all of us. There was a lot of conversation around these changes, and it's beginning to feel like we're gaining momentum as an organization. Accepting the is not the same as feeling better, though, and we felt it important that we take the time to revisit this discussion. Today, we are going to talk about the reactive and responsive aspects of each person's three core needs. Neuroscience has identified these core needs as safety, satisfaction, and connection. Each need has two aspects to it: our red brain as a reactive aspect, and the green brain as a responsive aspect. And the following is a reenactment of the actors' real life stories.
Meet Kathy, mom of 4 cats hailing from Santa Maria. Kathy is anxious about reading the feedback from her Peer 360 review, which was just made available. Despite the intention to be reasonable about reading her feedback, she immediately skips over the positive input and reads all of the suggestions where she has room to improve.
Dude, seriously? I didn't even want to read this, and now I know exactly why. You guys would not believe some of these comments. What's worse is I know exactly who I asked to contribute, so one of the people that I thought were my friends just totally threw me under the bus. I can tell who it is, too. They use that phrase all the time. It is so them. I mean, nobody has the right to judge me on my job performance based on the minimal interaction they've had with me. Do managers get to read this? I'm going to look like a total failure. I mean, these comments make me look like a complete pushover. I cannot believe this person would have the nerve to taint my hard-earned reputation. This is freaking great. Now, every time I run into the lunchroom, it's going to be weird and awkward. I can tell you one thing. If this person thinks we're still cool, they are dead wrong. Not after practically throwing me under the bus and stamping loser on my forehead. This is so incredibly stupid.
Kathy's red brain reaction was triggered when reading the negative feedback because she is left feeling inadequate and insecure. In order to protect her need to feel accomplished and successful, she is rejecting and resenting any evidence to the contrary, which will inevitably stunt her growth. Let's see if putting on a green brain can help her through this.
Wow, okay. This is a little tough to take in. I mean, they aren't wrong. I just don't like feeling like I'm falling short at work. And I didn't think my struggles were that obvious. But then again, the people that I ask for feedback it's from people that I know care about me, right? This felt like a personal attack when I first started reading it, but I can kind of see how it's probably coming from a good place. And I know what it's like to be an author of this kind of feedback, and I always came from a place of sincerity. I mean, hurt feelings aside, this really does give me some new perspective, and I can't expect to grow if I'm unwilling to admit that I need it.
The second time around, Kathy made a choice as she began to have a defensive reaction. Although the feedback still stung because it didn't change, Kathy decided not to interpret this as a personal attack, but rather genuine input intended to help her grow. Tom's just had a conversation with his boss where he was informed that there were some organizational changes on the horizon for ATG. The effect of these changes are uncertain, but substantial. At the end of the conversation, Tom was told to keep this information completely confidential. The unexpected turn of what would have otherwise been a normal meeting triggered Tom's red brain into action.
Well, great. I mean, we were just going to have a normal meeting, things were going well, and now I've been completely thrown off my game by what's just happened. I mean, the team has really been working together. We're all connected, we're all performing, and now, who knows why, there's going to be this change. There's going to be this big change, there's change at PBI, and now there's going to be change in Madison. And not only that, not only do I not know what this means or what to do with it, I don't get to tell anybody about it. It's all totally secret, so I just get to sit here and stew on it and wonder what's going to happen. Well, that's wonderful. This is really going to make my day great.
Let's pause here and reflect on Tom's reaction. He's mentioned connection several times because that is a core need of his that's threatened by this information. His default reaction was to panic and spiral, but there's another way.
Okay, I am not happy about this news, but we really are a strong team, and we really do have good connection, and you know, that is something that we can probably rely on, even though whatever is gonna happen with this org change is going to cause a lot of chaos. I know that we can just keep depending on each other and working together, especially we're gonna have to, since we don't know when this is gonna roll out or how it's gonna look when it does. So what I can do is I can take some deep breaths, maybe quite a few deep breaths. I can go back, get back to work with my team, keep my good connections with people in Madison, and then as this change rolls out and the uncertainty happens, we'll be strong and ready to deal with it.
The second time around, Tom was able to catch himself spiraling and recognize that feeding his anxiety would not productively serve him. He obviously can't look into his crystal ball to know how to best handle this news, but in choosing to try and be supportive and authentic, he can do a better job at preserving the connections he feels may be jeopardized. Our third real-life example comes from Robert. The date, December 19th, 2018. Management has shared a new vision for PBI in which departments were redesigned and affected many employees. Now, Robert can come across as someone constantly at peace with the world around him, what makes it easy to assume the news doesn't affect him as a USONA employee. The reality is, the heaviness of this change touches everyone.
The change in moving the building to Madison was really a little devastating for me, because I thought if the building were here, it has a GMP facility, then I would be here permanently. But moving it to Madison was not easy for me to be here, because it means I'll have to move back to Madison. And secondly, just as I was settling down with that thought, the changes happened. A lot of my colleagues, looking at their faces, were a little depressed, and in the interaction with them was not comforting for me. So that was really a depressing moment for me.
Robert's red brain reaction caused him significant anxiety around the uncertainty of the news. He didn't know what his job was going to look like in the coming months and wondered if he will need to uproot his family to follow work. His anxiety was exacerbated by seeing how difficult this news was for his coworkers as well. Robert, too, has a choice with how he handles this big news.
So I had a choice as to determine what next I should do. So I remember that we've learned certain things at the ESI and also mindfulness class. But in sitting at the lab, I was just staring at my bench and looking at the word USONA. At PBI, we love acronyms. So how could I use the acronym in order to deal with this situation? So the acronym USONA means utilize symbols, observe in order to normalize the negative behaviors. So one of the tools that we had was, if the negative behaviors are coming into our mind, we can just flick them out, out of our thinking. But I tried that, it really didn't work. So I had to improvise. And one way I improvised was to take a sledgehammer. I don't know if we are familiar with this sledgehammer. So what I had to do was, so I was able to get rid of it. But again, the normalized symbol, what did I observe? Now, when we walked into this place in order to have the food, there is no USONA table or PBI table. It means we are all in this together, so I had to find a way to be part of the team, and we work and deal with this all of us as a team.
The tool Robert learned in mindfulness to swat away negative thoughts proved ineffective. He had to improvise a more effective strategy for himself by smashing those negative thoughts to keep them from clouding his mind. What's more is by switching his thought process, he was able to realize that his experience was not lessened as a USONA employee, but that we're all muddling through these changes together, and he was able to normalize a difficult situation and begin to move through it. So again,
what was the point of all this? With all the changes we went through last fall, and then even this year, there have been a couple more, we wanted to keep the conversation going and know that it's okay to keep an open, honest conversation on the table. We made light of it for entertainment's sake, but it's really not an easy thing to do. In fact, it can be really difficult. Neuroplasticity is required to switch between the two brains. The red brain is our automatic response, and the green brain takes real intention and effort. We also didn't want to oversimplify anything, but if somebody was struggling and maybe looking for new tools or a new way to look at this kind of thing, we hope maybe this will help. Here's some more information that we'll leave on the screen for you, and thank you for watching.